deliberations based on the rule of law and the Constitution. I am suggesting that the issues that have been raised by our friends on the matter of IEBC, my suggestion is that this matter can be handled in Parliament by a bipartisan parliamentary process so that we can agree on what it is they have an issue with, and we can adjust as is agreed and as necessary. In these circumstances, and in view of the recent events that led to loss of life and destruction of property in the demonstrations that have occasioned in our country for the last 2 weeks, I urge my brother Raila Odinga and the opposition to call off the demonstrations and to give this bipartisan approach a chance for us to take the country forward. Meanwhile, I call on all Kenyans to remain peaceful and law-abiding, and I assure them that the government of Kenya will continue with its sacred duty of protecting their lives and their property, including their businesses.
Now, that's exactly where it started from up to where we are right now. This conversation for a bipartisan approach. Good. But then there's a conundrum now that has already started. And Albert, I want to take you back to what you mentioned this morning when we're talking about some of the leaders that have been appointed to lead this conversation. And if I may go back to the Standard this morning, so we can actually take a look at these names. If you look at from the Kenya Kwanza side, we do expect that Aaron Cheriot is going to be there, Boni Khalwale, Silvana Sosoro, Kimani Ichung'wah is going to be there. And if you look on the other side as well, we do have Ledamo Lekina, Edwin Sifuna, Enoch Wambua, Opiyo Wanani, as some of those names that have been fronted. But then when you look at this, these are the hardliners.
Yes.
In fact, some of these have even pronounced themselves heavily on what this conversation is. Not going to lie on it, but Kimani Ichung'wah has even suggested that Raila Amolo Odinga should be arrested. There's no need of us talking about this. Now, the latest development around this is even ICC being fronted. So if you go back to the street, we're going to write to the ICC. So you are therefore deemed a criminal. Let's begin from there. Is that where the conundrum begins? In the sense of both sides are presenting their toughest negotiators into this bipartisan approach. But you and I do understand the meaning of bipartisan. It is, let's listen to you. We're going to soften so that we find a solution. But as it is, this gentleman already been fronted here. They're not soft by any terms, Albert.
It's true. I think what is happening, or what has happened, is now just taking, according now to the people who've been chosen, is only now taking the demonstrations from the streets to a boardroom.
That's what it is, isn't it?
That's what it is.
Yes.
Because there is no way these people are going to discuss on the issues affecting Kenyans with objectivity.
Yes.
They will not be objective, because these are the people who assume the other party is wrong and they're right. The other party, they do not know what they're doing.
Yes.
So having these people to really negotiate for us as Kenyans, and you remember what Honorable Raila Odinga said, if it's not going to work, we are going back to
the streets.
Mm-hmm. So I think, as I had earlier said, that I would even ask His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, because this country is in his hands. So Kenyans will really blame him.
Yes.
If we do not move. and he's accountable and answerable to God for the destiny of the nation. So if he leaves the nation to people who are headliners, it will mean that we shall not move anywhere. Then the economy will remain in trouble, people will remain suffering, we shall not have solutions to anything, because these are the people who have a certain way of thinking, people who are politically, brainwashed into doing things in a certain way.
Yes.
So these are not the right people who, okay, they're the right people, but we need also to have more people on board.
On board.
People who are sober, people who are also professional.
Yes.
Because I tend to believe, and I believe that most of the politicians, okay, politics or being a politician, that's not a profession that you undergo a training to behave in a certain way, to do things in a certain way. I would prefer also to have sober-minded professionals, religious leaders, groups to come on board, discuss on these issues. After discussing the two principles, His Excellence and Honorable Odinga, they look at it and say, okay, this is what our team has
As presented. Yeah.
Then they say that we agree on this, or we do not agree because of 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Then they say, now, ladies and gentlemen, do we have a lady there, by the way? No.
No. I've not seen a lady that has been faulted in this case. Yes.
You see, it has even started, misbehaving from there.
Yes.
They say that, ladies and gentlemen, you have agreed on this, we have agreed on this. Can we amend this? Can we do this one, we do like this? Can we push this to this end? Then take it back to the team, then before even it goes to the parliament.
Yeah. Pretty much. But let's see where the conundrum is. Because even after we were presented with this bipartisan committee, there was an announcement that came from Raila Amolo Odinga, but we'll be getting into that shortly.
Yes.
But if you look at what we've been presented here, now it's a two-step process.
Yeah.
At first, when we listened to President Dr. William Ruto speak there, we said, well, there's a committee that's going to be formed, and then after that will be come up with suggestions and it will be done and dusted right there and then.
Yes.
But then later on, when we came to fully understand really what the president meant, the president said, well, look here, it's not just between you and I, it's between you and the people of Kenya. And we do know the law-making entity in this country. It is the National House, the Parliament.
Yes.
So whatever the committee suggests is going to go back to so that the law-making entity then can present this as lawful suggestions that the country can implement. Do you think that that should have been the process that we need to follow in this issue? Because there are feelings from both sides that it shouldn't get to Parliament.
Yes, I understand. That's basically what was in the mind of the president.
Yes.
I do not know whether that's what Honorable Odinga also had in mind, but he does not have that in mind.
Yes.
And I know where his fear is. You've heard of him saying that his MPs have been bought. And you know how our member of parliament behave. So I think the biggest fear and trouble is that it can go to the parliament, then they shoot it down because of their vested interest. So I tend to believe we respect our members of parliament, but history tells us they are not men and women of integrity. So that's the biggest problem we have with our leaders. Today they will talk about this, tomorrow they change tune according to how is it going to benefit them?
Yes.
You've seen even before Honorable Odinga and the president, they were friends.
No, quite high, yeah.
And in 2007, you could not separate the two. His Excellency, the president, and former president were like this. And other political leaders. So our political leaders, they come together not because, I would say not because of the nation. They come together because of how am I going to benefit from this? How is this issue of hunger going to be debated in the parliament? What resolutions and laws can be passed on that? I think we are supposed, our leaders should be accountable to what they told us, both the government, the ruling, and the leader of the opposition.
Yes.
They are supposed to be accountable to us, not to themselves.
That's it. So, Albert, let's look at what now Raila Amolo Odinga later on, after realizing that then this was the plan for the president, saying, well, it's not going to enter the committee. Whatever they come up with is going to go back to the National House. Let's first, even before I ask you about this, let's first begin from what Raila Amolo Odinga did tell the president. I'm giving you 7 days. We didn't know what those 7 days meant because they've been counting down. Now what we do know, we only have 2 days that are left out of those 7 days. We have not even seen the full committee that has been nominated then or selected to actually start these conversations. What do you read into Raila Amolo Odinga's decision then to give the president or the Kenya Kwanza government 7 days to finalize this bipartisan conversation? Because they said if it's not 7 days, I'm going back.
Okay, thank you. I tend to believe, and I think that he could be also, maybe he's read some mischief. And he does not enjoy the confidence of the president. That's why he's worried that if I do not give conditions, this thing can go on for even years, weeks, and what have you. So I tend to believe him coming up with those kind of conditions, he's just being careful not to find himself in a fix. And he is thinking that maybe this issue of having a negotiation is to cool, the temperatures in the country. Then things will be like normal. The condition of 7 days and I don't know whether any response has come up from it. You can see they're still struggling on forming the committees. And even during this process of forming the committee, I believe there are also confusions as to what to do, because what are the terms of reference? What are they supposed to look at? In resolving these conflicts, what else us? What the biggest problem we have? Why is this conflict there? How and what can we do about the conflict? Those are the things that we are supposed to look at, even before we give conditions. And the truth of the matter, Kenyans are not ready to go back on the streets.
Despite what the Azimio coalition is saying that Kenyans are ready to go back to the streets. And they've already said it, if we don't see. And which therefore makes me take you to this next part of the conversation, because we are right there now. Raila Amolo Odinga did come couple days later,
Yes.
and says, I smell a rat. I said, I smell a rat in the entire of this process, even before we get to start the bipartisan negotiations.
Yes.
And he said, the moment they feel that the process is not touching on the issues that are asked to be addressed, they will stop it, they'll go back to the streets, which essentially is one led the other side to say, well, you go back to the streets, and then we'll start calling on the ICC to come in and look into your conduct, because we don't understand why you're capturing the country. That's what they called it. Which makes me ask the question, is the country ready to go back to the streets? And who are the Azimio coalition representing? Because indeed, when you look at the things they're calling out for, Albert, reduce the cost of living, open the IBC service, and stop the reconstitution of the commission, that is the election commission. Are those issues, or I should ask, are those not the issues that Kenya should be looking into?
I think you and I and another person in Kenya, the truth of the matter, the economy is not doing good. As we speak, I do not think there is any investor who would be keen to come and invest in our country because of what is happening. The cost of living has gone very high, very high. We blamed it on the war in Ukraine and other things. I don't know how, the power has gone very high. Twice, I think.
Does it actually went up by 65%, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, as of this April. Yes.
Is that because of the Ukraine war?
You would ask.
Do we import power from wherever? You look at, fuel, I may understand, but the subsidy we used to have, in a way, they used to help the common mwananchi. Look at even the government, the expenditure. I think instead, about the subsidy, because if the cost of fuel is very high, it means everybody, and especially the common mwananchi, is going to suffer a lot. So for us to work on the economy very well,
yes,
we are supposed to look at this wage bill.
Yes.
And government appointments. I think that's where we are supposed, even the allowances. Let us give these guys not so much allowances, office tea,
yes,
all those things.
Yes.
Why can't we have those things? Even the position of CIS is unconstitutional. Is that not true? That's what has been said. And it's also in court. So the question is, if it is unconstitutional, I'm sorry I applied for it, if it is unconstitutional, why don't we forget about it? Because we are going to spend around 5.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
We see how best this money can be used as subsidy for fuel, food, and what have you, instead of giving it to these guys, because the guys who were nominated, they're all political leaders. So, it even confuses the mwananchi, is that how come that most of them are former political leaders? Does it mean that we did not have any other person who applied? Because I expect to see somebody like you, a very new faces.
Yes.
So when you bring us old faces that are very comfortable, the country is ailing, then it does not make sense.
Such a big sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Now, Albert, I'd like us to take a tiny breather, because some of the things you mentioned there now is just now for us then to go back and start looking at what are some of the demands and what sort of negotiation nature are they going to take? Because number one, the Azimio coalitions questioned the appointment of CASs. In fact, they said, why do we have 50 CASs? You like to think that that's something that those particular negotiations are going to touch on. They said, well, we have no representative in government, especially as the opposition. Yes. But as we speak, Albert, the CASs have been appointed, sworn in office. We're waiting for a court to make a decision on them. The PSs have been appointed, sworn in office. The CSs have been appointed, sworn in office. Now, here is a conversation where we have to go back and say, well, we also need a say in this government. And we've seen those conversations all come up. Did you think then that the president, in his right mind, or the National House, in their right mind, will go back and say, yes, indeed, let's do away with the CAS positions. Let's go back and ask the president and the PAC to actually give some positions, all right, in the state agencies from the opposition side? Because some of the reasons, as we were talking about this, is because we are back again to what the BBI was presenting to us, that the winner takes it all and the loser gets nothing. That is what has made Raila Amolo Odinga to say, we need this committee to come up with the final presentations. No debate after. Once we come back, Albert and I are here to talk about it. What is going to be the nature of those negotiations? Right here on The Morning Drift.
Majina naitwa Faith Cheroti. Asante sana kwa Leto Foundation kwa kuwa mmetuwezesha tukakuja.
Thank you very much, Lotto, for being the title sponsor. This is a great event. It's not just about athletics, but it's also about growing business using sports as a tourism attraction.
The rest of today imepana sana, tumefurahia.
Asante sana kwa Lotto Foundation. Thank you so much.
Being a cross-country runner myself before, it is very fulfilling and refreshing to see that the deep talent that we have in this country is such a huge.
Together, we are changing lives.
Why Malindi? Any idea why the A-list celebrities, politicians choose Malindi as a destination? Is it the sandy, spotless white beaches, the rhythmic, relaxing oceanic waves, or is it the great potential investment opportunity that Malindi has to offer? Dark Balance, we are here with a variety of projects from as low as 99,000 shillings. You get an eighth of an acre with ready title deeds. Book your plot today with only 35,000 shillings and get a free return air ticket. Be the next investor in Malindi with Dark Balance. Call us now on 0740 888 111 or 0740 888 222. Dark Balance. We promise, we deliver. Why wait? 20 Malindi.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Has the term gender roles affected today's society?
Definitely it has changed.
Some people like me, or traditionists, I really don't agree to that cause.
So you're not less of a person that you do them.
Yeah.
You know, you're not less of a person.
When it comes to gender roles, we men have a bigger responsibility.
Okay.
A bigger responsibility than them. Whether they argue using all philosophy and all manner of explanations.
There is no set role for somebody, because you can come home and your spouse is not home and you're hungry and you have to cook.
What made you change your perspective on this role?
You see, it's just circumstances.
A society that is, is being defended by women is a weak society.
The names have already been floated from both sides. What is coming out is that both sides are presenting the strongest names so that they could get something out of this bipartisan negotiations. We know what the headliners have said from both the Azimio coalition and the Kenya Kwanza side. But now I want to take you back to, again, what the Azimio coalition, really wants out of this negotiations. Let's take a look at exactly what the Azimio demands are in these negotiations, so that we come and talk or put it into proper context with Albert right here on the Morning Drift.
Exactly 2 days after the former Premier Raila Odinga accepted to go with the bipartisan approach proposed by President William Ruto, the Azimio principle has come out to strongly state that the government has to swiftly act on certain matters that do not require the bipartisan parliamentary committee's input.
The regime must take immediate steps to bring back the cost of unga to Kenya shillings 100 as at the time of the election. We further resolved that Kenya Kwanza must take immediate steps to lower the costs of fuel and put a freeze on the recent increase in the cost of electricity. These are not matters for a committee. They are things that the government just needs to take a decision and implement.
Odinga has also stressed on the need to objectively and conclusively resolve issues that arise from the August 2022 general elections.
This meeting agreed that auditing the 2022 election servers is necessary and urgent. And here we add that we require forensic audit by experts. 3, reform and reconstitution of the IEBC. This meeting agreed that electoral reforms are urgent and necessary for future elections.
The former Prime Minister has reiterated that the government needs to fully compensate Kenyans injured and families that lost their loved ones during their mass action.
The state must immediately take up the costs or waive all medical bills of victims of police brutality, including journalists and the last expense costs of those who lost their lives.
As the opposition statement predicts a possible return to the streets, it also kicks the ball back on the court of the bipartisan parliamentary committee that is required to be objective as possible in resolving issues raised by the Odinga-led team.
We assure our people and Kenyans that our eyes are firmly on the ball and reiterate that we shall go back to the people as the earliest sign of lack of seriousness by the other side. In other words, if the other side is not serious, we will go back to our people and continue.
Sam Medika, Look Up TV.
So the demands then that the Azimio coalition has made. And Albert, you hear them there. And but just a recap of them. They're talking about the cost of electricity. They want IBC servers open, and they're still on it. Cost of electricity in terms of the cost of living. And that has come up immediately after EPRA announced that indeed as from on the 1st of this April, the cost of electricity is supposed to go up by 63%. So they added that in terms of the demands. They looked at what they were calling a constitutional right that majority of the supporters were enjoying in terms of the protests. So they're saying, well, all those who were hurt during the protests, including the journalists, something that put the government on the spot, their medical bills have to be sorted out by the government. But the bigger takeaway there is that should we realize that indeed there is no seriousness from the government side in that committee, we're going to go back to the people. And then I want you to weigh in on that with this new one now. Raila Odinga essentially has envisioned the ability or the powers of this committee to what happened after the 2008 post-election violence. He said, well, I envision the powers of that committee with that reconciliation committee that were formed when Kenya went into election violence back in 2008, that whatever they say is final. This parliamentary process, I do not want it because we do know that some members of parliament have been bought by the government, allegedly. That's exactly what the Azimio side has called out for. Let me start with that. Does he have a point that if indeed we're going to talk about bipartisan negotiations, there is no need of going back to parliament because indeed all these committees that you're presenting here represent the government and our side also represents the opposition. And number two, do you think that these new demands make it easy for the government to actually get on negotiation table, or it already disincentivizes the negotiation?
Thanks. This is a very tough situation.
Yes.
It's not as easy for even the president, neither is it easy to Honorable Ruto.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start by looking at the issue of, you mentioned the issue of cost of living?
Yes.
You mentioned the issue of compensating these people?
That's it.
If the country can be, the government, can be fair enough, those who were affected during the demonstrations are not guys are neither upper nor middle class. These were the lower class people because they're the ones who suffer the most. So generally, these people are unable to meet their medical bills. Recently, I saw a lady on TV whose son was killed. She says that she does not have a single coin. She is only interested in having the body of her son ferried to their home for burial. So I think it has a point, he has a point that if the government can be fair enough and say, yes, this is our country, this is our children, there is a mess here. Let's forget about what happened. Let's see how best we can assist these people. Those who are in hospital, in public hospitals, they foot their bills. And I know most of them should be in public hospitals. The government should come in and assist these people. Because these are the people are just hungry, they're frustrated, and they assume that by doing this, maybe it will make my life better. The other one is the cost of living. The cost of living is gone so high, as I had earlier said. There is nobody who is enjoying, unless you are a cabinet secretary maybe, or somebody up there, but everybody is crying. So what are the remedies? What is it that the country can do? What is it that we can have a discussion on the cost of living to at least alleviate it and have our people enjoy life somehow? I have really been, everybody struggling, even me. I'm not finding it easy. And I know if I'm not finding it easy, there are so many other people who are not finding it easy. So the negotiation also should look at how best can we work out to ensure that the common mwananchi and Kenyans are not suffering this much. I don't know, the other thing you asked was about what?
Now from there they came up with then this new demands as well, that should we sense any unseriousness? Yes.
I think everyone, including yourself, myself, if we agree to discuss on an issue, and we invite people to come help us solve the problem, then it reaches a point I do not show the seriousness, or you do not show the seriousness, then you will not take me serious, I will not take you serious. I would say that I'd rather do what I was doing other than sitting and not coming up with a solution.
Is it preempting? Is it sort of threat? And I'll ask you this. Albert, we agree that we're forming a process.
Yes.
And we're going to sit down and talk. Even before we are done forming the committee, and even before the names are being proposed, even the modalities of the negotiations are not even clearly out. And then I stand here and tell you, if I sense that you're not serious in any way, I'm out. Are you threatening me in some sort of way? I mean, we've not even started it.
It is either threatening or passing information that just in case, because I fear you, just in case you are playing games with me, I'll also behave in a certain way.
What atmosphere does that create, especially when we do know that it's only hardliners who are going to appear in this committee?
It tells us, as I had earlier said, that with those guys, it is actually getting the battle or the demos from the streets, bringing it into a committee room for discussion. So if that be the case, and I had earlier said that the only people who can help us come out of this are very sober-minded people who will not lean towards a certain political party or coalition. People who are very objective, people who've been tested, and people whom you respect even when you talk to them. When they talk, you see leadership in them.
That's it. And I'm sorry to cut you short there, Albert. We want to look at the first clip for Raila Amolo Odinga shortly after you answer this. So you and I can try gauge whether he really did have the final picture of exactly how this process was going to go. Because if you saw the clip you just ran, it's on second thought. Now, could I pick your sentiments on Raila Amolo's stance on the fact that, you see, this committee that you're going to form here, it should be final. This parliamentary process, I'm sort of doubting it. Do you think it should start there and end there, given the fact that, well, that committee is well represented from the National House and the opposition side as well?
I totally agree with that, because if you choose a committee, you have faith in that committee. Mm-hmm. The only thing I want is that the committee should be expanded. Mm-hmm. They should bring other people on board. They should, I had said already, the religious leaders should come on board, opinion leaders should come on board.
Yes.
Even former MPs who served with integrity should be on board. Then these people discuss these issues. They discuss them, they share with the principals, whatever they agree on, let it be. Because I am sure,
yes,
if we take it back to the parliament, it will be buying time. Because as we had already said that our members of parliament are very interesting. The allegation that they've been bought, the allegation that some of them do not have the interests of Kenyans at heart, ni tumba yao. They may do the opposite of what Kenyans expect of them.
Yes.
Let me just give a very good example. As a leader, you saw most of us, even let's look at what you had the deputy president talking about Kenya being a what? A company?
Yes, about it's a company, so you come in and buy your shares.
Yes.
If you didn't buy shares, then...
Yes. You know, that to me, that kind of thinking and leadership is disturbing.
Yes.
Because once you are the president or the deputy president of a country, all those people that are under you, you are supposed to serve them equally.
Yes.
You cannot tell us that I'll be checking on the line. I say, you are not part of us. Get out of the line. Go behind. You know, you see, we are making our people not to trust the leadership that we have.
Yes.
And we need to trust those God has put into leadership positions. There are two people I admire their leadership. Honorable His Excellency Sakaja. Mm-hmm. He's in UDA. But when he talks, he's balanced. Natembeya, he's in Azimio. But when he talks on issues to do with the county or the government, he is very balanced. And so many other people are balanced. So we need not headliners to show us that they can really talk.
Yes.
Because you may win an argument when you are wrong. Then the problem will not be corrected. Because you've won it because you are very good at articulating issues, talking. So those are the things that we are supposed to come out of it.
Pretty much. Now, Albert, I want us to go back to Sunday. Last week, actually Sunday this week.
Yeah, Sunday.
When Raila Odinga then decided to call off the demos. It's going to be a last chapter of our conversation this morning. So that we try and ask ourselves the questions, did he speak like a man who had been given the clear picture of exactly how the entire process was going to go, or he was given just a tiny bit of information to take him off the streets? Let's take a look at what he said last Sunday.
Leaders, it is our responsibility in Azimio la Umoja to save this country from the catastrophe. We as Azimio la Umoja have resolved the following. 1. We acknowledge Mr. Ruto's olive branch for a dialogue on key issues raised by Azimio la Umoja. To us, this is a positive development. 2. We agree that a balanced parliamentary process, co-chaired by both sides and backed by experts from outside, should proceed. In our view, this committee must be composed with immediate effect, with strict deadlines for resolving the crisis facing the country. 4. In accepting the call for the dialogue, we ask that all arrests and prosecutions related to our demonstrations be stopped with immediate effect. In view of the foregoing, we stand down our demonstrations for Monday, that is tomorrow, April 3rd, 2023. 6. But in doing so, we want to emphasize that the right to assemble, to demonstrate, petition, and to speak are ironclad as provided for in our Constitution. 7, therefore, we reserve our rights to call for demonstrations should this process not bear fruit.
All right, welcome back. Albert, if you listen to Raila Amolo Odinga, that's on Sunday.
Yes.
And you listened to him, you did listen to him when he was making this new demand.
Second, yeah.
When he was speaking there Sunday, did he speak like a man who had been told how the process was going to go? So now Raila Amolo Odinga, stop the protest, is exactly what we're going to do. We are going to form a committee. After this committee, they're going to deliberate. After they deliberate, we're going to go back to Parliament. And after Parliament, that's when we try and see whether they're going to accept your proposal. Does he speak like a man who had the clear idea of exactly what was going to follow?
I don't think.
So the talk about there haven't been a meeting between Raila Amolo Odinga and Ruto probably might be incorrect.
One thing I want you to understand about our political leaders, you may not know what is in their black box. It is possible. The allegation that these people met, it is possible they could have met. And the allegations are that they met in Masai Mara or somewhere. I don't know whether you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've also heard of it.
Yes,
yeah.
It is possible. But from the discussion and the way Honorable Raila Odinga, the address he gave on Sunday, it was as though he was ambushed. He was not very sure what. Although he said that we are calling off the demos because of blah 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 is a good gesture, what have you. Now everybody loved it, liked it, and according to what he said, I don't think it was very clear to him what the process will take, how it will look like. And he accept if they really met and talked, maybe he might have accepted based on the discussion they were having with the president by that time. Then reflecting on it while somewhere alone, there are times when you reflect on something and say, hey, I think I made a mistake here. So I think he is also looking at it and saying that I think at this point I made a mistake. I could have done it better this way.
No wonder the revision.
The revision.
Yes.
So I tend to believe if that be the case, he might have been, or he could have accepted, not knowing what lies behind the entire discussion. That's how I look at it. I think the president was also very clear. But the president, when he was addressing the nation,
yes,
he did not give us a list of things to look at, saying that we are going to look at this, we are going to look at this, we are going to do this. So the president was very brief on what really what has to be done about the bipartisan
approach.
Yes. So I think we leave it to the two leaders to look at it, to tell us the way forward. But as I had earlier said, the person in charge of the country who is accountable for the destiny of the country is the president.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever he says and tells people should be nothing but the truth. And that is the direction he has, the idea he has. He should not go by what his headliners are telling him. If that happens, we shall have a good nation.
Albert, there's no need to add anymore. Guess what? Just for us to wait and see. Once they form the committee and once the discussions begin, then I'll call you back again. So now we look at exactly what they have presented on the table and what the parliament is going to discuss and the reaction of the Azimio coalition. Guess what? Take Albert back to the time that he joined us at this morning right here on Look Up TV's morning drip, all the way from when we spoke about what is happening on your dailies to what is going on around this conversation on the bipartisan approach on YouTube at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I am Atiaga Shimba. Let's take a tiny breather. Once we come back, Ian Ketani and I will be taking you straight to what is happening on your social media platforms, as well as what is going to be our focus for our conversations in the newsroom this morning or today. Good morning.
Thank you.